Hey everybody, Captain Algebra here, and about a month ago, I actually hit 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. Now that is not a lot by any means, but it was super cool to get there because I've always done YouTube as just something fun to do and as a hobby. Never really chased the numbers, didn't chase the algorithm, so I just thought it was a kind of a little cool milestone to hit, so I figured we would do a little Q&A video, and we got a lot of good questions. We're going to jump right in. First one is from my buddy J-Chip Show, and he asked, what are some games you severely underestimated before you played them? So I had a few of them. Number one, Days Gone. I heard really bad things about that game. Heard it was very buggy. And so I bought it cheap on PS4 when it went on sale and sat a while. And then I want to say Dad and Lads Gaming talked about it on their channel and they liked it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to finally give it a chance. And I loved it. It was the perfect mix between The Last of Us and The Walking Dead. And it's still one of my favorite PS4 games. It's so sad we're not getting a sequel, but it's such a good game. Next one, don't laugh, but Barbie on the NES. So I got this from Video Games Monthly years ago, a complete inbox. And I think it was the month before I started making YouTube videos. And my wife laughed at me, but she's like, God, I wish you made a video for this one just to see the look on your face when you pulled that out. And I was like, great, Barbie. And so I played it and it wasn't that bad. Like people think I'm joking, but it really wasn't. And so it became a whole thing. I streamed it. I did a no death run. It became a joke in the community, right? You're not a real gamer unless you've done a no death run of Barbie. So then a bunch of people did. I know Jim Maxey did. I think Omega Ace Gaming did. I know Mega Dan did. Mazen Power did. So a lot of people, I don't know if Eugene did, but a lot of people just started doing no death runs. And it's really not that bad. It's not great, but it's not as bad as you would think. Another one, Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass on the DS. So I heard these games were bad, and the first time I actually played it, I didn't like the whole having to move with a stylus. I thought it was kind of dumb. But I gave it another chance, and I really enjoyed it. Sure, it still has that Wind Waker-y graphics, but it doesn't look as bad on the DS as it does on the GameCube. And so I really enjoyed it. And then I played Spirit Tracks and enjoyed that too. And the last one I would talk about is Maneater. Maneater is another PS4 game that has turned out to be one of my favorite games on the console, but I heard good things about it. I bought it, I played it, and I just didn't enjoy it. I was like, I don't know what it was. I just wasn't having fun. So I shelved it, and then finally, I want to say Chris Pico from Midlife Crisis Media played it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to play it. And I played through it, I platinumed it, and it is so much fun. I mean, you're a shark who evolves, and you just eat things, and the humor is great as you've got these people from the bayou that are trying to find you and capture you. And there's some great boss battles against some huge fish and other sea life. And you can get all these different evolutions, and you got to pick how you want to evolve. And I ended up with, I think, the outer skeleton. The bones looked super cool. But yeah, it was just a really fun game. Next question comes from Spirit Wolf Gaming 1986. So he asks, what are your top 5 favorite LGN games you've played? And what are your top 5 least favorite LGN games you played? You guys know I love LGN, so this was easy. Top 5, we'll start from 5 go up to 1. Number 5 is Wolverine. Number 4 is The Punisher. Number 3 is Jaws. Number 2 is Nightmare on Elm Street. And number 1, Back to the Future. Now, Nightmare on Elm Street is the better game. Punisher is the better game, but I grew up with Back to the Future, and so I have a ton of nostalgia for it. I love it. I mean, I play that game all the time, multiple times a year. And I think since the first time I beat the game, a couple of years ago, I have not lost since. So the last level is very tricky because you have one shot, right? You have, just like the movie, you had one shot to hit 88 miles per hour at the exact right time that the lightning struck the clock tower, so you could back to the future. And it's tricky because there's lightning bolts that slow your car down, and you have to get up to speed at a certain time. And I've got it perfect now. I'm sure the next time I play I'll probably screw it up, but it's really good. As for least 5, or least favorite 5, now all of these I've played a little bit, but not a ton, so this could change eventually, but right now it'd be number 5 is Roger Rabbit, number 4 is Bill and Ted, number 3 is MLB Baseball, just a really bad baseball game. 2 would be Back to the Future Parts 2 and 3, way worse than the first game, and the worst LJN game by far is the Uncanny X-Men. Even as an LJN defender, even as someone who loves LJN, I cannot say anything good about X-Men. Nothing. Mega Danny and I even played it together once, and we gave up pretty quickly. I will beat it someday, because I want to beat all the LJN games, but that game sucks. Next comes from my buddy Waves and Games. White Castle, with or without cheese? Obviously with. I'm from Wisconsin. Cheese pretty much goes with everything. Every meal has to have cheese, okay? It's just good. But that goes back to Mo GameCon. We always have our 100 White Castle burgers, and it's really good. But you gotta have cheese. Next comes from Jim Maxey, and he's got two. Number one was kind of a joke. What is the best console ever, and why is it the NES? Now, clearly I'm wearing an NES shirt, so I agree with him, right? No. Honestly, I'd like the NES. It's a great console. It was the first console I ever played. But it's not even in the top 5 for me, I don't think. If it is, it is 5. It's top 10 for sure, but it's not top 5, I don't think. SNES, Genesis, Game Boy, PlayStation 4, and possibly PlayStation 5, I would definitely rank higher. I'd have to really think about it, but right now I'd say those are my top 5. NES probably be number 6. But my favorite is the Super Nintendo. I was just kind of blown away by the graphics, the sound, everything about it. To this day, I think explosions on the Super Nintendo, the sound and the visuals of it are still my favorite explosions on any console. I don't know what it is. It's just super cool. But his real question was, what would you consider your collecting white whale? That game that you'd love to own, but is either too rare or too expensive to ever add to your collection. So I'd probably go with Little Samson on the NES. Now, obviously, I have spent that much on a game. I think so. Actually, I don't know what it's going for right now. But I bought Crusader of Senti on the Genesis, which is the most expensive Genesis game. And so I've paid a lot of money for a game. But I'm going for a complete collection for the Genesis, so I could make it work, right? And but Little Samson, I would love to own it because it's a good game and it's rare, right? There's a lot of rare games that are just bad, but Little Sam's is actually good. I've heard good things about it, so that's probably my white whale. And going along with that, my buddy Dan Brosman from Midwest Media Show asked, what is your holy grail item that you've never found for your collection, whether it was because of price or availability? So this is why we're going to connect to my Genesis collection. Obviously, I'm going to get it at some point, but it'd be Musha. So Musha's a game I probably see, at least in the box. I don't know if it has the manual every time, at every convention I've ever gone to. So a couple years ago at Mo GameCon, I actually had the money for Musha. I had sold this big Ocarina of Time standee for a lot of money, and so I had a couple grand to spend at the convention, and so I was kind of like, Musha, that's what I want. So I got the early bird pass. I quickly made a lap around the place looking for a complete box Musha. I saw a loose Musha, but that was it. And since then, I've seen a copy of it at every convention when I did not have the money for it. So I've got to get it eventually, but that one's going to be tough. Next comes from Bargain Bin Hobo, and he actually asked 5 questions. So number 1, what are your top 5 favorite game franchises? So again, we'll go in ascending order. Number 5 would have to be Mario. I mean, how could you not like the Mario games? There's so many good games. There's so many variations of the games, right? You got your traditional platformer, you've got RPGs, you've got Mario Kart games, you got the Mario Party games, you got baseball, you've got soccer, you've got pinball, you've got Picross. Like, there's so many different type of Mario games, and it had to make my top 5. Number 4 would be Donkey Kong Country. Now, I love Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2. 3 is pretty solid. The Donkey Kong Land games on Game Boy are pretty decent. 1 is not that great. 2 and 3 are very good. But the reason it gets knocked down is Donkey Kong Country Returns and Tropical Freeze are both not that good, in my opinion. They just don't have the magic that the original Super Nintendo games had. Number 3 would be Streets of Rage. Streets of Rage 2 is my favorite game of all time. 1 is a solid game. 3 is much better than it gets credit for. And 4 was a fantastic return. And now I know they're going to be coming up with a new Streets of Rage game coming out pretty soon too, which is going to be super cool. Number 2 would have to be Contra. Love Contra. I mean, Super C and Contra, I grew up playing those. Those are amazing. Then I had Legacy of War, which is not amazing. But since I've gotten into collecting, I've played more Contra games. I mean, you got Contra 3 Alien Wars, one of my favorite Super Nintendo games. Contra Hardcore, one of my favorite Genesis games. You have Operation C on the Game Boy. You have Alien Wars on the Game Boy, which is a very good port. You've got Shattered Soldier and Neo Contra, two amazing PS2 games. So Contra's fantastic. But number one, God of War. I love God of War. I've always been interested in Greek mythology. I even took a Greek mythology class in high school, and I've always thought it was really interesting. And so in college, my buddy bought God of War 2 the day it came out, and I was watching him play it. I'm like, this game looks awesome. So I went out and bought the original God of War, played that, bought a copy of God of War 2, played that, and then I was hooked. I didn't play God of War 3 for a while because I didn't own a PS3. But one of my friends had one. He let me sit down and play it. And then obviously God of War and God of War Ragnarok came out on PS4 and PS5, and it's just been fantastic. Ascension is really good. It's better. It's not the best, but it's better than you think. The two PSP games are really good. You just can't go wrong with God of War. Easily my favorite franchise of all time. Next question from Hobo is, what do you love the most about being on YouTube? Conversely, what do you dislike the most? What I love the most is just meeting people and the community and the friends that I've created over the years. I've got a lot of good friends, like locally and that I've worked with in the past and from college and high school. But there are some people that I've met in the past, how long have I been doing this? 9 years? 10 years? In November, I think it'll be 10 years. There are some people that I've met and I've hung out with that have become just as good friends as those people that I've known my whole life. And just because we have common interests, and when we hang out, it's just fun, right? We just want to have fun. We want to have a good time. We're not being idiots to each other. We're not full of drama. We just enjoy each other's company, and we like talking about video games and playing video games. And it's really cool. What I dislike most is the drama. There are people that come on YouTube just for the drama. And part of the problem is the online community is full of what I call keyboard warriors, right? When you are behind a screen, you feel safe and feel like you can do whatever you want, right? I mean, if you saw someone at a convention, some of the stuff people say in comments or online would never fly. You would not say this to somebody's face, you know? And so some people are way too dramatic and take video games way too seriously. We're just having fun. Let's just play video games and have fun, right? Next, if you were put in the director's chair for a movie based on Contra, would you follow the game's canon closely or loosely? Definitely closely. I mean, you got to have Jaeger Freud in there. All right. I mean, come on. That's a person from Super C. If you didn't know, if you haven't done it, look at the manual for Super C. The names of the levels are hilarious. But the most important part about the Contra game would be clearly Mega Man and I would be the stars. Obviously. I mean, we'd have to be in it. We definitely have the bodies for it. We would totally be good for Contra movie. If you had to start YouTube over, retaining the knowledge you have, would you do anything differently? For the most part, no. I mean, I'm a math teacher, so I'm not that creative. And so I make videos that I want to make. And I've never been someone who chased the numbers or chased the algorithm. I'm going to do what I want to do, right? It's YouTube. It should be about what you want to do. Now, obviously, if I wanted to grow, if I wanted to make money and do this for a living, I'd have to change things. But I've always said that I'd much rather play a game than edit a video. And so I probably wouldn't from that lens. I would maybe want to do more monthly retro challenges. I had a lot of fun doing that. The problem was I was just doing all that editing once a month, watching all the videos, pulling clips, took a lot of time and energy. And like when back in the day, Gamer and I started the Week of the Retro Challenge years ago, and we alternated, it was a lot easier. We also weren't making results videos, but results videos are a lot of fun. They're really cool, and I think people enjoy them, so I'd want to keep doing that. So maybe every once in a while I'll bring that back. And just probably one of the big things is I wish I had stayed in touch better with some people. Once I had kids, I kind of didn't watch YouTube as much. I'm not in the streams as much. And then in October of 22, I left my job that I had been at for 11 years and eventually got a new job. And I went from teaching 2 classes that I've been teaching the same stuff for 11 years. So I didn't really have to prep too much to teaching 6 different classes. So it was a ton of prep. And so basically all my free time at school now, like on my prep and stuff, was for school stuff. Whereas in my old job, like I could use my prep, I could watch YouTube videos and leave comments and stuff. And so with the kids growing up and doing more stuff with them and getting a new job, I just feel bad because there were some people that, like, I was one of the first comments on all the time, right? You put a video out, I watched it immediately. And I think we all know, like, people who are constantly commenting on your stuff, right? And you notice when they don't comment. And I think sometimes you feel bad. You don't mean to, but you wonder, like, did I do something? And so I hope people know that if you're watching this, and I used to comment on your videos all the time, and I don't now. It's nothing you guys have done. I've just gotten super busy, and I'm just not on YouTube as much as I was, which is disappointing. So that'd be a big thing I'd want to change. Just stay in touch better with people. And last one. What was the worst stream you did, whether it was due to technical difficulties or a game just sucked that bad? And what was your best stream? Worst stream by far, I would have to say it was Castlevania 3 the first time I played it. I was in a bad mood for some reason, and I got stuck at a part, and I basically rage quit. That stream is long gone. I deleted it. But between that and when I played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 Battle Nexus on the GameCube, that was another one. That one I don't know if it's up anymore. It's at least on YouTube, but it might be private, whereas Castlevania 3 I deleted. But I was just so mad. I was swearing. It was not my proudest moment as a gamer. So those are two of my worst. The best, number one would probably be after I got my new job, I stopped streaming and really making too many videos just because I was so busy. And in January, I want to say, of 2023, I had some time, so I decided to do like a one night only stream of Game Boy games. And it was just super cool to see the support. So many people were read in the chat before I started. So many people stopped by saying it was good to see me. And like, that's what YouTube's all about, that community. So I'd been gone for a few months, and people were right there ready to support me again, which was super cool. And another one I want to go with is when I streamed with Megadan. There's so many good ones. I mean, we beat Nightmare on Elm Street together. We beat Streets of Rage 3 together. We beat Golden Axe 1, 2, and 3 all in one night. But I think my favorite is when we did Contra and Super C no death runs in the same night. Super cool. I know there's some controversy with the Contra one, because after the boss died, I died. But the boss was dead. That alien never should have come after me. That was bullshit. But we will redo it, because we're going to prove we can do it. But yeah, that was a cool, super cool stream. Next, we got my buddy T-Belly. What is your fave PS controller? Now, PS4 and PS5 are solid, but I still think PS2 feels the best. It just fits in the hand the best. I think it's the one I like the most. Chris James T85, can I send you an endless amount of pineapple pizza? Hell no. Pineapple, while a very good fruit, does not belong on pizza. End of story. Next comes from a Wazram, so we got two. So why those two games will get you timed out. A long explanation. So yes, if you've been to my streams, we know the joke is if you mentioned Wind Waker or Ghosts and Goblins, you get timed out. And basically because I hate those games. Ghosts and Goblins is a broken mess. Now, it's not as broke as you think. People have done no death runs, right? There's patterns, you can figure it out. But the game is bullshit. I mean, there are times where the burrito ghosts literally spawn on top of you and there's nothing you can do. And it just is, it's kind of glitchy, it's kind of wonky, it's not that good of a game. And so I hate that game. Number two, Wind Waker. It is literally the worst Zelda. I would rather play is it 3DO? CDI games. I haven't played them, but I'd rather play them. Wind Waker is boring. All you do is sail and sail and sail, and you got to change the stupid wind direction all the frickin' time. Like, so dumb. I know they fixed that in the HD version, but still, I don't want to change the wind just because I want to sail in a different direction. It's stupid. And there's all these tiny little islands that half the time you can't even do anything on until later in the game. And honestly, I'm not one to care about graphics, but that game is ugly. I don't want Toon Link, okay? I want the grittier, darker versions of like Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess, which is my favorite Zelda game. So yeah, that's why those get you timed out, because those games suck and I hate them. And the next one, what is your favorite Genesis title? And so he kind of mentioned it could be a game you don't have. So I'm going to talk about a few. First, I'm going to talk about just my favorite game in general, Streets of Rage 2. It's my favorite game of all time. I grew up with it. I love it. I play it all the time. When I'm not sure what I want to play, I pop in Streets of Rage 2. And every time I start playing it, I can't finish it. In fact, I have a version of it on my phone. And we were out of town at a funeral last weekend, and I decided not to bring my Switch or anything. And so I had no games to play. So I'm like, well, I got my phone. I'm going to play Streets of Rage 2. And I played through it on my phone, which is not easy, but I did it. Some games that I've bought as I'm going for my complete collection that I've really liked. Number one, NBA Action 94. I know a lot of people don't like sports games, but I had so much fun streaming that game that I went through and played an entire season of it. It was just a really solid basketball game. And then Haunting starring Poltergeist. That game is so funny. The way you can terrorize the family and scare them. The final boss is super annoying, but it's just a really unique game. I would love to see like a remake of that or a sequel to that done on modern graphics. I think it'd be really cool. And then a game that I don't have in my collection that I'm looking forward to getting would be Sparkster. So I've grown up with Rocket Knight Adventures. I love that game. Sparkster's expensive. I will get it eventually, but I kind of want to see what they did with that game. Next comes from Tumo Fiji. Can you tell us the Captain Algebra origin story? First time you wielded the yellow gloves and the red hat on the YouTubes. So Captain Algebra came about my first year teaching. So my students know I love math. I share that passion. You can tell that I love math when I'm teaching it. And so towards the end of the year, kids are drawing on my chalkboard and they drew a picture of me and they said, they called me Algebra Man because I love algebra. And one girl goes, if I made you a shirt that says Algebra Man, would you wear it? I'm like, well, of course. And so either the next day or the next Monday, I can't remember what day of the week it was, she comes in with a shirt, but instead of Algebra Man, it said Captain Algebra, and then in parentheses it had Algebra Man on the bottom, and then had a cape on the back with the letter A. And so I would wear that at school every once in a while, and then 2 years later, another girl made me a new shirt with a longer cape, because the one on the first shirt is very short. It's kind of funny. With a better cape, but she spelled Captain wrong. She felt so bad, but I'm like, it's all right, I'm a math teacher. I don't need to spell good. And so when I made my YouTube channel, I really wasn't sure what to name it, so I'm just like, I'm going with Captain Algebra. And so that's what happened. Now when it comes to the yellow gloves and the red hat, that's all because my buddy Diehard Gamer Bro, so he's a fantastic artist. And so when Mega Dan and I started doing Mega Powers Monthly, and first we started streaming together, but then we wanted our name to be the Mega Powers because I believe Max Impact named us. And so he made the image of Mega Dan looking like Hulk Hogan and I'm looking like Macho Man. And there it is. I mean, you can even see right back there, right? The bobblehead my wife had created for me for Father's Day one year. So it's kind of cool. Next, Retro Rivals, Scott and Jennifer. That's right. You call me Tim, I'm calling you Jennifer. So we got two. This one's got to be from Scott. What's the worst RPG you're going to play this year? So yeah, I gave him a hard time for liking RPGs on their Q&A video. Honestly, I don't know if I'll play any RPGs. I mean, if I play an RPG, it's going to be an action RPG, which means it's probably going to be good. I probably won't play any turn-based RPGs because I hate them. I just don't like them. Now, I have been throwing around the idea in my head of like finally playing Final Fantasy or maybe Dragon Warrior. But I hate grinding, and I know those games are super hard to get into. And I know there's better versions of at least Final Fantasy to play, but I feel like if I'm going to play one of those games, I want to play the first one, and I want to play it in its original form. You know what I mean? So we'll see. And then, how do you become Captain Algebra? Do you have to work your way up to the ranks? Admiral Algebra has a nice ring to it, though. Just a suggestion. I became Captain Algebra because, as I said, people just name me because I love math. Admiral Algebra has a very, very good ring to it, but I gotta stick with Captain Algebra. Now, something super disappointing is this is actually the first year in my teaching career I'm not teaching algebra. I'm teaching geometry instead, which is fine. I like geometry, but algebra is so much better. So it is disappointing. I might have to change my name to something with geometry, but I don't want to. But yeah, it's Captain Algebra forever. And finally, my friends over at Do You Nerd had two questions. That first one's kind of a joke, but we're gonna answer it. What was your first impression of Do You Nerd, and how many regrets has that led to? None. Tom and Lacey are some of my best friends on YouTube. We talk on Polo. We see each other at Mo GameCon every single year since I started going a few years ago. They came to Midwest Gaming Classic one year. And when I first met them, we had been talking online for a while. And so it was just like meeting old friends. You know, it's like we'd known each other all our lives. You just kind of, it wasn't awkward at all. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you might think like, hey, I've only talked to these people online. I only see them on the camera. I've never actually met them in person. You might think it's a little awkward, but it's not. And they were super cool, super down to earth, and it was really cool. And last question, what's been a YouTuber meetup that's meant so much to you and why? And this is a super hard question because there have been so many good ones. And I know I'm going to leave people out, and I apologize. But there have been some great ones. First person I ever met from YouTube was Back in the Day Gamer. We'd been talking back and forth with Video Games Monthly and stuff, and then he mentioned he was going to be at Midwest Gaming Classic to see if you see him in his Pac-Man suit, let him know he'll buy you an Atari 2600 game. So I said, I'll be there. I was only there for a couple hours. Met up with him in Video Games Monthly. We ended up having drinks and just hanging out, and it was a super cool guy, super down to earth, and really, like I said, one of my first good friends on YouTube. And then the next year, meeting Mega Dan there, realizing that we lived 45 minutes from each other so we could stream together. He became a really good friend, and then through him, I met the Retro Crew. So we had Solid Nate, Linda the Gamer Girl, Diehard Gamer Bros, T-Belly, Phil Twerpin. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody, but we used to talk on Voxer every single day. And a lot of them had worked nights, so I would go to bed, I'd wake up to a ton of messages. That's the first thing I did in the morning was listen to them. If I was going to work, I would listen to them on the way to work, and then I'd respond. And it was super fun. Now, we don't talk like we used to, unfortunately, but it was just a cool group. And then finally meeting them in Too Many Games 2019 was awesome. And then meeting 8-Bit Glitch 79 there, and then BK, Voights81, which is super cool because I'm just walking around the convention, and this guy comes up and introduces himself, says he likes my channel, and it's like it was the first time that ever happened. I'm a super small YouTuber, obviously, but it's just really cool to be recognized by this person, and it was just super cool. Meeting Gaming Off the Grid for the first time. Wes found my channel when Mega Dan and I were streaming Mega Powers. Wes was searching Mega Powers for wrestling, of course, saw us streaming and started talking, and became quick friends. But they had less subs than me. I think they had less than 500 subs at that point. They were going to Midwest Gaming Classic. I remember getting there. I walk into the hall, and I see them right ahead of me, and I go up to them, yo, Wes, Robert, what's up, Gaming Off the Grid? And you could tell they were just kind of like, oh my God, we're recognized. You could tell they were nervous and stuff. And super different from what they are now, right? They're used to it, and they've gotten so big on YouTube. But that was super cool because they've become really good friends of mine. They've come here, stayed. I've went there and stayed. We usually stay together at Midwest Gaming Classic every year. We stay together at the Airbnb together, at Mo GameCon. Just become really good friends. Chris Pico I met at Midwest Gaming Classic, and now we game hunt a few times a year. I've been part of his two podcasts, the Super Neighbor Brothers podcast and the Movie is Starting podcast. Super cool guy there. Mo GameCon, like we already mentioned, Tom and Lacey from Do You Nerd. Dan Brosman, become a really good friend of mine. And but I think the one I have to go with, and this doesn't take away from any of the other ones, but Peter from Waves and Games, just because Peter and I knew each other kind of through Do You Nerd, because he knew them, because they lived by each other, and he would comment on my videos, he'd be in my streams and stuff, and really, really cool guy. And the first Mo GameCon that I went to, he wasn't there, but then the next one, he was. And when I met him, it was literally like meeting a long-lost brother. No awkwardness, it was just like, we were just like good friends right from the start. And it was super cool. We spent the day at Mo GameCon pretty much talking the whole time, walking together, game hunting, looking for games for each other that we were looking for. And it's just hard to explain. And I've had experience with that with other people and stuff, all these people that I mentioned. But it just seemed a little bit different with Peter. And he's easily become one of my best friends on YouTube. Probably one of the ones I talk to the most, not nearly enough, unfortunately. And he's just a good dude. He does stuff like thumbnails and overlays for me, and he's one of the best guys on YouTube. So I can't thank everybody enough for all the support you've given me over the years. Like I said, I do this for fun. I'm not very consistent. In fact, I haven't streamed for like all of March because I got sick and I just got busy with work and with family and getting ready to go to Florida for spring break. but people still support me. They show up in comments. They show up to my streams. When I comment on their videos and I show up to their streams, they're super welcoming and super fun to talk to. And it's just amazing in these 10 years that I've been on YouTube, all the good friends I've met and all the good memories I have. In fact, when I go to conventions, I don't even film anymore because I'm just in the moment, hanging out with all my friends and just making memories that way. So there you go. That was my Q&A. I appreciate everybody who asked questions. If you have questions and you didn't get to submit one, put it in the comments below and I'll answer it. But again, thank you so much. I'm still doing this because of you guys. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. So here's to another 1,500 subs in another 10 years. Thanks for watching, everybody. Till next time, this is Captain Algebra, signing off.